Hey, somebody needs to polish the rocks. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by WisdomHarbor.com, the streaming service whose goal it is to create the next greatest generation. For less than $3 a month, you'll have access to original content found only on WisdomHarbor.com that builds effective and influential relationships between adults and young people. Dave Ramsey says it's also good for your business and teams. Utilizing video, audio, and the written word, content is delivered in small bites by Grammy winners, CEOs, comedians, master chefs, best-selling authors, and Hall of Fame speakers. There are even guitar lessons from an award-winning songwriter. Join WisdomHarbor.com right now and become a part of the quest to create another greatest generation, starting with your family and in your hometown. That's WisdomHarbor.com. Observations and answers is what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And sometimes our guests not only have observations and answers, sometimes our guests are so interesting that we get started talking right when we connect on Zoom, and we kind of forget to start the show. And that's what has happened today. So we have Julie Richard, who is the CEO, founder of Fearless Mom. Julie is one of the funniest, smartest people I've ever met in my life. And she and her husband, Mac, in Austin, Texas, they're some of our favorite people. And I could listen to Julie talk, and I could just talk with Julie just forever. And so we started talking, and Matt started recording, and we were talking about books at first. And so I just thought you would like to hear us talking and just kind of segueing into the greatest parenting information you've ever heard. Here is the conversation with Julie Richard.
Glass Castle.
Yeah.
It is again about a child who grew up in a family that was dysfunctional, in that both parents struggled with mental health issues. And so it's interesting to me, the people who have read it, same with Demon Copperhead, I'll say, what was your feeling at the end of the book? And there are two different takes on it. Like my sister, when she got to the end of the Glass Castle, she said, I was furious. Like, who could treat a child that way? How could a child go that long in a home like that? It was just so upsetting to her. Whereas I read it and thought, oh my gosh, everyone who comes out of a situation like that points back to a coach, a teacher, a neighbor,
somebody
friend's parent. All it takes is one adult to recognize the child, to say, you have so much potential. I believe in you. And then at Sam Hell, it was the same. It was fiction, but if you read the
and Demon Copperhead, his friend.
Yes,
yeah.
I just think it's huge. But I think it was because I was a teacher, and I thought, wow, I have the opportunity to be that voice in any child's life, and you never know what children, and that's why we always say parent isn't a noun, it's a verb. And there are a lot of, biological parents who don't parent, and then there are a lot of people who aren't biological parents who choose to parent.
Right.
And so kids need to be parented, but it may not be. In an ideal situation, God's design and desire is the parents in the child's home.
Right.
But everybody has an opportunity to parent, someone.
The Demon Copperhead, it was like watching a NASCAR race or watching pro bull riding. It's like you can't take your eyes off it because you know there's fixing to be a wreck. And I wondered how Barbara Kingsolver got that so. I mean, it's like, how do you know this? I mean, it's almost like suspicious. It's like, how do you know this so well? She captured it so well. And so if you liked Demon Copperhead, which I did, I just could not quit. I was drawn to it. But the reason I told you is like watching a wreck, but you realize this is really happening. Well, you have to read A Hillbilly Elegy.
Okay.
Dave Ramsey turned me onto that book. I was in Dave's office one day and he said, "Have you read A Hillbilly Elegy?" I said, "No." He said, "A eulogy is when they're dead, but an elegy is when somebody's still alive." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, when you leave this office, that Barnes and Noble at the bottom of the road here, they have this book. Go get this book and read this book." He said, "You know these people and you will laugh and laugh and laugh." And I'll tell you, that book, and it's a memoir, and it's written by a guy who graduated with a law degree from Yale, and he wrote this book at 31. And
so it's a memoir. It's not fiction.
It's not fiction. It's a memoir, and and he's explaining his family and explaining how they were and what he grew up in and the changes he had to make in his thinking, even to go to college, even to finish high school. But the thing, it is so, and I'll just tell you, because I've given this book away, but I'll tell you before you read it, when I give the book away, I say, just be aware, the F word is in here quite a few times, but it's usually from his grandmother. So,
well, that's how I feel about recommending books. I'm so cautious. I feel like I have to put an asterisk. Demon Copperhead is not a family-friendly book. It
right.
is. I believe the language and the perspective is true to the age of, the character and the culture he was living in. But I feel the same with Sam Hell. I actually listened to Sam Hell, and I would pull in to pick up my groceries, and the language in it was very direct. And this young man is coming up to my car window, and I'm pressing pause, panicking that it sounds like, that I'm on the phone with somebody who's talking like that. But yeah, it made me a little paranoid. But I did love both of those.
I do that too. When I listen to a lot of Audible, and when I listen to Audible, I'm like, you drive up to a drive up window.
Yes.
And pause. I can't let any of this.
Right. Like I can filter. I know it's inappropriate. I know the character that I'm listening. I know it's part of, the fictional book, but it makes me very uncomfortable.
I feel like in Hillbilly Elegy, it lightens it a little bit to say it's usually his grandmother.
I for sure think, and it also makes it feel like it's part of the story. Like the story would play different if you didn't, especially a grandmother talking that way.
Oh, tell me when you've read that.
I will. I'll read it. We leave Saturday, so I'll put it on Audible.
And don't forget, Mac has to read Lords of the Fly.
Okay, I'm typing that right now because I'm going to forget.
Okay, and I'll text him too.
Now, I don't read nearly as much as Mac does. I read a lot of nonfiction, but I'm trying to weave in fiction. I know it. I know I need to read more fiction. So those are my.
And you know why? You know why you need to read fiction, Jules?
Tell me why.
You need to read fiction because nonfiction will give you the facts. Okay. But anybody can get the facts. Anybody who reads that book will get the facts. Nonfiction gives you the facts, but fiction will fire your imagination in a way that nonfiction never will. And if you only have the facts and don't develop the imagination to deal with those facts in a way different than everybody else is dealing with them, you just have the same thing. And so you need to keep that great imagination going.
I'm doing it. I'm on it.
One of the things.
He gave me a new one to read. I don't know what it is, but he'll say, you'll like this one. You'll like this one. So.
Do you usually?
I do. Oh, he knows what I like. He knows that I can't. I can't. I choose not to. It's very uncomfortable for me to read anything where a child is a victim.
Yeah, it is me too.
And so he will say, don't read this. Like, even if it's a book that everybody's reading, he's like, you would definitely not like this. And so I can be confident as I'm reading that I know it's not going to go to that place,
My reading changed when we had children. I used to read like John Sanford, who had this Lucas Davenport character, and he was always hunting serial killers, and it'd go into what the serial killer's thinking and all like this and what he's doing, and I'm like,
Right.
I cannot
Can't do
read
that.
that stuff.
Can't do that. It
As
lingers in my head, and I know if it's lingering. What I love, Mike, is to get to the end of a book and the next day miss the characters.
Me too.
So I miss Demon Copperhead. I miss Sam Hell. I want to know more. I miss that. That's what I love.
I think a
right
lot
now we are saving the series finale of Endeavour, which is a British crime show. And it's the series finale, and I know I will miss Endeavour. Again, not a family friendly show.
Right. But you miss the characters. Do you and Mac ever watch Midsummer Murders on BBC?
It comes up on something like recommended because we watch so many British crime shows.
Well, you will love it. You will love that.
Okay, we'll do that. Then you know what? I'll probably be okay with missing Endeavour if I know I can replace it with a new.
And there's 20 years of it.
Oh, that's my favorite. Like Law and Order. Like it just never ends.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Midsummer Murders is great. It's set in this town that, I feel like they must change the population sign every week and, just decrease by 4 or 5 people. Because, they're not just killing one person a week. They're killing 3 or 4.
It's like a lot.
Yeah. It's
we
great.
watched a lot of those.
Yeah,
British crime shows like Shetland and I'm trying to think of some of our favorites. Vera is a good one. We've watched a lot.
Yeah, Polly likes those, and so I've become a fan, especially of Midsummer Murders. Father Brown is a little vanilla for me.
We haven't watched that one. I think we may have looked at it and been like, Endeavour has a little edge. Yeah.
So does Midsummer Murders. The Midsummer is SOMER.
Yeah.
Is as a place, in England, but the Father Brown is too. It's a little bit too, when you got a priest that comes and goes, you killed her, and the reason you did is because of this and this.
Right.
And it's like, everybody goes, yeah, I did. It's like,
right,
oh, God, okay.
No, this is, I love, the other show that I love, which is completely different, is John Favreau's cooking show.
You and Polly in your cooking shows.
But I don't cook. And so I feel like I've created a recipe. Literally last night, I had some teenagers over after our
Julie, you're watching cooking shows. I have been in your kitchen and seen you pulling pizza boxes out of your oven.
That's what I was going to say. The words came out of my mouth last night. I said, I made this pizza. Do you know what I meant by that? I clicked the create your own pizza and chose the toppings and sauce and cheese. And I felt like I literally caught myself saying, I made this because I clicked.
Because you chose the toppings.
Pizza.
Yeah. Wow.
And I love John Favreau's cooking show.
So what's up with his cooking show? Why do you like his cooking show?
Well, I think he's so interesting. I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff. I'm not a Star Wars buff or anything like that. But I think it's fascinating that somebody like John Favreau, who has accomplished so much in his life, makes himself so vulnerable in these shows. And he's there with Wolfgang Puck and he's asking him, how do I do this? Why do I do this? So here's John Favreau. Doesn't need to earn more money by making another show, but he loves learning. And so I'm just fascinated. And the relationship between John Favreau and Roy, I can't remember his last name, but he was the chef who trained John Favreau for the movie The Chef. And so
Are you sure John Favreau's career isn't in the tank?
I don't think it is.
I mean, you've heard, now, have I told you the Andy Andrews theory of a declining career?
I have, but I no, but I will say this: like on the maybe the second or third episode, Gwyneth Paltrow says, "Now, what are we going to do with the show?" And he goes, "I don't know. I just wanted to make one." And so there is that vibe. It's very casual. But anyway, go ahead. I want to hear your theory about a declining.
Well, the Andy Andrews theory of a declining career is that, like, if somebody, a good example would be if somebody has this rock and roll, pop, rock career and they're at the top of their game and it starts slipping. They're just not selling as many records. They're not as in demand. It starts slipping. Then they put out a country album because country people are more forgiving and they're like, wow, hey, he likes country. Look at that, and so then that can get that career. But then if the country career starts to dip, they put out a Christian album because Christians are even more forgiving. And they're like, oh, see, he's been one of us all along. And that star power is brighter. See, he's a Christian. And then if the Christian career starts to tank, they open a theater in Branson. And then if the Branson thing goes south, they hold a press conference and tell everybody they're going into rehab and then they're coming out and they're going to be a motivational speaker. And that's the bottom of the barrel right there.
Wait, and without saying any names, are you picturing examples as you give this declining career?
Oh yeah. Because we've all seen that happen. We've all seen that happen, hadn't we?
We've all seen it happen.
Yeah.
Don't name names. It'll make me uncomfortable.
So, one of the things that I love about you and your husband, Mad Mac, is among the many things. I mean, you guys are like, you are like top of the list of favorite people to be around. You and Mac traveled with us when we had our 25th wedding anniversary trip. For a week, y'all went with us.
And we had met you maybe 3 times. I think we had met Polly once.
And isn't that weird that we felt that close to each other that quickly that we would ask y'all to go with us on our 25th anniversary trip and that you would say yes?
We would say yes. But you know what was so funny is that is so out of character for Mac to want to travel with people, period. And then to travel with people that he doesn't know. When he mentioned it to me and I said, wait, are you seriously thinking about going? And he said, yes. And I go, are you serious? And he goes, I totally trust Andy. And so I think in his mind, you are so intentional about every decision you make that you had strategically chosen the people that were going and he just completely trusted you. Wow. I must say, it was one of the best experiences of our whole lives.
Well, I'll tell you what, we came away from that week with bruised cheeks. I mean,
my word.
We laughed so much. We were all going around going, oh, don't say anything. Just don't say anything. But one of the things that I have admired for years about you and Mac and have watched this happen is I've always said, we're not trying to raise great kids. We're trying to raise kids who become great adults. And you guys have done that. I mean, I don't think the jury is still out on your kids anymore.
It's funny. Our kids are now 28 and 26. And Emily's engaged and Joe is soon to be engaged. And then we have our 2 bonus girls who are 28 and 25. Right. And we actually, Mac tells them when we're together, he says, my dream for you, I hope that you enjoy your children when they're adults as much as we do. And so we do feel very fortunate that we have an incredible community around us that helped us raise them up. And that for them, we feel very fortunate. It's not been without bumps and bruises, but I do feel that we do enjoy them. We enjoy, and we look forward to the next stages.
But
So
see, this is the great thing about this when I look at you guys and your family is this was on purpose. This was intentional. This was planned. This was not, you guys were not rolling the dice over and over again. This was very well thought out, very well explained. And your family went on this journey together and is still on this journey, and everybody's willingly involved. And it is, and I should probably say right now, Julie is the founder and CEO of Fearless Mom, which is a worldwide organization that if you're a mom and you even aspire to be fearless, you should be a part of this. This is unbelievable. I have been around him a couple of times, and I've been around Julie a good bit, and I think Fearless Mom is an organization that is on the cutting edge of leading parents to great decisions to raise children into great adults without a ton of the stress that's involved.
You're very generous in your words. I was very fortunate growing up. My dad always talked about the decisions that we were making, and he was very okay, and my mom was too, with our family being the only one making this decision or that decision. It was very clear to us that Dad didn't really care what the other families were doing. This was what our family was doing. And so I think I grew up with our boundaries. I couldn't have articulated this, and I'm sure I wasn't happy about it when I was 15, but our family makes decisions based on our family values. And so I grew up with that notion of you do what is right for your family, period. And that's driving you toward your family vision. And your family vision is going to be different than your neighbor's vision. So I think
the argument, but everybody else, that doesn't make any difference.
It was never even, it was a joke in our house for someone to say that. Because that just wasn't going to fly ever. We knew that wasn't Dad's posture. I say Dad, he was definitely the primary voice as far as discipline. We were teenagers drawing the boundaries. But I do think also that and Mac was really great about this, always saw it's not about what the behavior looks like at age 3 or 4 or 5, but if you can picture that behavior in a classroom, in a dorm room, in a boardroom, and what does that look like as an adult? So we call it 20/20 parenting. It's not about the next 20 minutes. It's about the next 20 years. So when parents would say, should I discipline for that? Or should I discipline for this? I'll go, well, is the behavior, something you want to continue? If not, you need to address it. And so I think it was just a part of the way we saw life, is that we really set out saying, and I think this was our years in student ministry, we saw families who enjoyed teenagers and we saw families who didn't. And we determined before we had kids, we want to enjoy those years. So it wasn't just about getting to the teenage years, but that was part of it. We wanted to enjoy that stage. So our decisions early on had even 10 years ahead. And then the older they got, we could see 10, 20, 30 years. What does this look like in a marriage? What does this look like? So when I would talk to Emily, or, if we had an exchange where we were drawing a boundary that she didn't like, I said, well, it's not really about this, Emily. It's about when you are working with coworkers and you need to negotiate or compromise. You've got to learn how to do that. So I think it was just, we were very fortunate. Early in our marriage, we were around families with older children.
Right.
And so we could see, yes, we wanted to have it like this and not like this. And I'm an analyst. I love to read research. I love to study trends. That's something I enjoy. And so I think that was part of it too. I love trying to figure out, well, why are these families different, and why do these families not enjoy it? And, why is this a trend? And, so that's part of it too, I think.
Our boys, Adam is 21, Austin 23, so we're behind you a little bit. And we had a conversation the other night. Adam, as you know, is working on a boat, and so there's a captain, and he takes care of everything else and fishes the people, and so the charter organization, and Adam came in and was showing us a picture of this 10-year-old that had been on the boat within that day, and Adam's holding up a fish the kid caught, and the fish is grinning. And Adam said, I just love this kid. This kid was awesome. He fished all day, and he told his parents at the end of the day, he said, I have a new best friend, and it's Adam Andrews. And he said, I just love that kid. He said, I wish even most of the kids were like this. And I said, well, what are most of the kids like? He said, Dad, you would not believe how many teenagers come down the dock, get on the boat with their heads down, never speak to the captain, never speak to me, go right inside the boat, inside the salon, take out their iPads, and keep their heads down on their iPads the entire day. And I said, they don't even come outside to fish? He said, no, sir. Watch the iPad all day long and never speak to anybody. And then when Polly and I were like, you've got to be kidding. And the parents are paying for this charter. And Adam said, you know what? He said, I'm really glad that you guys didn't let me have a telephone when I wanted one. And Austin was there, and Austin said, yeah, me too. And I said, well, do you guys remember how much you wanted one? And they said,
Right?
oh, we do. And because, everybody else had one, but Polly and our posture was, you will get a phone when you need one. But right now, you're around us. You're around adults. You don't need one. You're not out driving. You're not out by yourself. You don't need one. And so I think it gave Polly and I a good breath to hear that now, even at 21 and 23, they're glad that their lives were established without that they had fun.
You and Polly, it was very clear to the boys, whether they understood it or not, you had created that foundation of trust. So they knew that even if they disagreed with your decision, that, okay, they're making that decision based on our best interest. I do believe they knew that, even if they disagreed with that. So my question would be, what do you think you did that gave that foundation, that built that foundation of trust, where even when they disagreed with you, they thought, all right, mom and dad are doing that not to be mean, or not because they're on a power trip, but they're doing it in our best interest?
Well, when they were older, and by older I mean 8, 9,
Right.
10, older, we explained. We didn't just like send down the edict from on high. We explained why. And I remember telling Austin when he was about 12, I said, buddy, you and I are not always going to agree. But I want you to remember that you know how much I love you. And so I don't think that is in question in your thoughts. I said, so you know how much I love you. And so I think it's not a stretch for you to figure that I want the best for you, the very best. And so knowing that you and I are not always going to agree, I don't think I'm always right. And so if you disagree with something, I'm fine with you telling me and us talking about it. And we will talk about it until I agree with you or you agree with me. But we're not after what I want, and we're not after what you want. We're after the best. And we're looking to your future. Like, how is this going to affect your future? 10 years from now, how is this going to play out? And I had a conversation with Austin when he was 12 about the age of 25. And so we talked about that a lot.
Again, it's vision. You're giving them a vision beyond right now, how you feel right now, even just getting into college around here. That is the be all and end all. Every decision is made based on what I want my child to be able to get into this college. So there's no vision past getting into college. Forget life in college or life after college.
Right.
It's totally about getting into college, which is a very short-sighted. That 18 years is a small chunk of your life.
It really is. It really is. And I think that was one thing.
If you think about the biggest decisions of life, they're made when you're older than 18.
Right. I remember having a conversation with the boys one time, something they were bent out of shape about that really didn't have to do with family. It was, I can't even remember what it was, but I remember saying, I know that at this time in your life, 16 seems like it's your whole life. Mm-hmm. It's like now you have a hard time imagining that anything is going to be different than now. But I got to tell you, time is a huge leveler. By the time you're 25, 26, 27, 28, there's not the popularity contest that you see in junior high school. There's not the picking on people. There's not the sarcastic comments, because these people have been leveled, and a lot of the people that you feel like are the nerds, they're going to end up being the Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs, and
right.
And the people that you feel like they're the great athletes, if that's all that they're about, their life is over after high school. And so we're looking at much further down the road. Let me ask you something, Jules. If you could look at one thing, at parents that have children from, I guess, birth to 5 years old, mm-hmm. and you look at one thing that you say, if and I don't mean necessarily an action, but maybe a philosophy that would put them on the road to having a great relationship with their children, to having their children be confident and to having a family that is kind of together with where they're going. What would you say? What advice would you give somebody? Somebody you meet on an airplane and somebody says, yeah we have a 2-year-old and so this 2-year-old, we love him to death. We love each other. We don't really know what we're doing, but what would you say?
I would say, gosh, that's a great question, because I have a lot of stuff I would say. But if I'm
Good.
on a plane
say
ride,
it all.
probably
say it
a
all.
short plane ride. But I would say, number one, be okay with not having all the answers. You're not going to have all the answers, and you will definitely mess up. But that foundation that you build of trust, and that trust is built over time with play and hanging out. I think we move at such a fast pace, and I think we expect our children to develop at such a fast pace, and we're all processing so much information these days at such a fast pace that I would say simplify your life as much as you possibly can so that you can enjoy. Enjoy life. If you enjoy your life, your children will drink from your overflow. I always picture myself as a fountain. And what am I spewing? And my children are drinking from my overflow. So if I have one thing, I'll be like, are you enjoying life? Do you enjoy the life that you're living? Do you enjoy your marriage, your family? Do you have a relationship with God that is joyful? That's your number one. And they will benefit from your overflow because your language will be different. Your body language will be different if you are enjoying life. And so, number one, I would say, are you living the life you feel like you're designed to live? And then next to that, understand that there are choices I can make and actions I can take to slow my life down. We feel like we can't, but we can control more things than we can. And so simplifying your life as much as you can, simplifying your intake. Is the TV always on? Is the radio always on? Are you always listening to podcasts? Are you just processing information all the time? Or are you ever in solitude and just moving slowly? So your
quiet is important. Quiet is important for a sane adult.
We process our feelings, our thoughts in solitude. But if we are truly honest and say, when am I experiencing solitude? And I mean, when I say solitude, I believe it's Cal Newport from Digital Minimalism and Deep Work. And he says, solitude is absence from any voice, whether it's music or a podcast, even if it's educational, even if it's helpful, but there has to be absence of any other opinion or sound or whatever. So I would say simplify intake, simplify calendar, and simplify environment. I just think if we can create a world in our homes, and our hearts are homes, both of us, in ourselves individually and with our children, as simple as possible, living ASAP, as simple as possible, and strip it down and saying, I can say no to this commitment. I can say no to this invitation, and I don't even have to give an excuse. I can just say no because I want to give my children, an opportunity to grow and develop at a slow pace. And we don't operate like that. We don't. It's very unusual to find someone who's okay with that pace. And I think we're speeding up life. We're processing so much information. And I don't want to badmouth social media because Fearless Mom, we reach a lot of moms through our social media, but we do recognize that we're constantly taking in information through the news, all the cable news and all the podcasts and all of the social media. I can't even think about growing, developing minds being bombarded with all that information. But that's what I would say. Choose to live life as simple as possible for yourself, and your children will benefit from it. And I also would say, get yourself into a community where you are around people who are a little bit ahead of you and people who are a little bit behind you. Yeah. I think that's a life lesson throughout your whole life. We really worked on that with our children that they had when they were in elementary, they were around teenagers. And when they were teenagers, they served in elementary and they were around young adults. I really wanted them to see, if we're trying to give them vision, then put them around people who are in the next stage and the next stage so they can see what that's like. I think perspective, you talk a lot about perspective, and I think your community impacts your perspective more than we realize.
And if I could suggest Fearless Mom as a community, that's fearlessmom.com, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I mean, listen, I cannot recommend this strongly enough. This is, you're getting a taste of Julie now, and just wait till you connect with this whole thing. It is awesome. It makes me wish I was a woman, but
you know what? We actually have some dads who listen to the podcast, and we have, and they're always saying like, are we going to do Fearless Dad? And most of our parenting principles are for moms and dads, but for sure we gear it toward moms. Because I'm a mom, but we have some stuff coming out that's for dads too.
All right, so let me ask you one. This might be a little simpler. even though you might not want to answer it.
I can't wait now. You're really setting it up well.
And then I've got a question that's really going to make you uncomfortable. Then we'll get okay. Here's the one you might not want to answer. There is this thing. I say thing like it's a thing. And I guess it's because it's a thing to me, but it's called gentle parenting. And so if you're on a plane and somebody, they haven't got their kid there, their kid's not going nuts and climbing the walls of the plane, but the way they describe the child is that the kid goes nuts and climbs the walls. And so if somebody says, I have a 4-year-old and, I'm reading a lot about this gentle parenting, and I want to be a gentle parent, and I want my child to love me, and I don't want to hurt my child, hurt their feelings, and I don't want to stunt their spirit. But my 4-year-old, I'm having a hard time with them. What do you say?
I ask a lot of questions. I would say, tell me what you want your child to be like. Can you tell me what you want your child to be like at age 20? Can you tell me what you want your child to be like I would probably go 14, 24, 34. Tell me what you want that to look like. And okay, how are we going to get there? And so taking where you are now, how do you think your child is going to get there? What are some things, and what do you see your role as parent? If you're the teacher and the coach, how are you going to teach and coach? Instead of the word discipline, which I think is kind of a hot button word, and I don't understand, because discipline simply means to teach and to train, to raise up.
I mean, to me, the reason we discipline is so we can hand it over to them and they can self-discipline.
Truly, that is the goal.
Because an adult that doesn't self-discipline has to be disciplined. And when society disciplines an adult, it's never pretty.
Well, my sarcastic response is, I hope that the schools have gentle teaching and the police officers do gentle policing, and I hope we have gentle, but it's the truth of the matter is, if you look at every child ever born, we are born with a predisposition towards self-preservation and self-promotion. That's humanity, period. And so then that's natural. That's normal. That's called being human. So every child is born with that predisposition, but that child then needs the adults in his or her life to direct and train and guide and teach to become a healthy, happy adult. And a healthy, happy adult knows how to do things like manage those feelings, how to compromise, how to speak clearly and respectfully when they disagree. And I don't mean respectfully just toward adults. I'm talking about respectfully to their siblings, respectfully to their classmates or the other kids on the playground. So instead of focusing on this, what is this gentle parenting? I'm like, tell me what you want, and let's develop a plan to get there. And then if I find out they're people of faith, then it's a whole nother layer to the conversation. Because if someone does believe in God, if someone does believe in the Bible, then I say, okay, let's look at God as the ideal parent. How does he parent? And so then if you look at scripture to see how God parents, there are times when God allowed natural consequences, certainly, for people who fell away from him or who disobeyed him. There were other times when God did impose consequences so that he could teach, train, direct, and correct, so that he could shape the heart of the man who was going to lead his people. He would allow consequences as well as give consequences. So if we look at him as the model, but he always did it in love. I think that built on the foundation of trust and love is a critical piece of discipline. And when I teach discipline is negative consequences as well as positive. So I would just say that discipline, if we're going to use that word, you go, okay, what's the desired behavior and how are we going to get there? How do you teach a child to speak? They start saying words. You model for them, mama, mama. They say dada. You repeat, mama, mama. And they say dada. And you keep modeling, and you correct, and you get them there. That's how we're going to do behavior. Behavior is no different. And when it comes to math, some kids are quick learners. Some kids need extra help. Same with behavior. It's just another set of learning skills. And we tend to separate it as if it's a different way of learning and a different way, when really, if you just look at how we learn to talk, how we learn to read, how we learn to do math, we're going to do the same thing with behavior. We don't all of a sudden expect our kids to learn how to read. We teach them. And so we want to teach our kids how to behave.
Wow. That is, man, that is so good. I hear you say, I hear you say mama and dada, and it makes me think, this is just an aside, but I have a good friend who, I was with Sandy and his first grandchild, and the grandchild, this was a bunch of years ago, but the grandchild was about 5 years old, and it was the first time I'd been around the grandchild. And I heard the grandchild say, "Bo, can we do so-and-so?" And he said, "Sure." He said, "Thank you, Bo." And I said to Sandy, I said, "Did he call you Bo?" He said, "He did." I said, "Not granddaddy?" He said, "No, Bo." I said, "Why does he call you Bo?" He said, "Well, it was the only thing I could think of that he might be able to say before he said mama or dada."
Yes. Oh, for sure. You definitely want to use those consonants that are in most kids' developmental stage, for sure, as early as possible. That is excellent.
Okay, here's the question that you're gonna hiss when I ask.
Before you ask that question, I wanted to add, because when you were talking about that, I thought of, we give allowances for kids to learn to read at different paces and to learn math or to learn to walk at different paces. We allow the struggle, we celebrate the struggle, we all of that. And I think behavior, we have to allow kids to develop at different paces.
Gotcha.
And some kids are just more compliant by nature, and that's awesome. And just because a kid pushes back, there's no such thing as a bad kid. It's just a kid who needs a little more coaching, And I think we tend to categorize our kids. Here's my easy one. Here's my hard one. And
I heard you say one time, and I'm going to try to prompt you to say this again, but I heard you tell a bunch of people one time, "Hey, that daughter you have who's 5 years old that you wish she wasn't so strong-willed." One day, what did you say?
Yeah, we call that our strong-willed blessings, because we believe the strong will is a blessing. It's a gift. So we don't want to change those kids. We just want to channel them, because that strength, that tenacity, that intensity, that drive is going to be the same thing that looks that 16-year-old boy in the eye and says, "I said, get away from me." And I love that. Yeah. I think that's amazing. I have a strong-willed blessing girl, and I love her. I didn't want to make her less passionate. I didn't want to make her less, caring. She cares deeply about everything. And as a matter of fact, her business, her ministry is called All the Things, which sums it up, because she cares about all the things.
But how strong-willed was she when she was little?
Oh, she was intense from day one. Literally, my dad came in the hospital when she was born. She had really fair skin and really dark eyes. And he said she's the only one with her eyes open in the nursery. And later on, we realized, she's looking around, she's sizing everybody up to say, who's going to be taking care of me? I'm going to tell you how to do it. And so she just was very intense, very, when you were talking about your boys wanting phones and asking for phones, good gracious, she would prepare presentations and PowerPoints and about the myths and the truths of having a cell phone. She tried then like to throw the safety thing, like, Mom, it's for safety. And I said, well, you already told me that everyone else has a phone. So if you're in danger, obviously
you're around a phone. Yeah.
Right. You're fine. And I said, but good try. That's what we would always tell her. Like, wow, that was a good one. That was a good one. She just was very intense. Her tantrums would go on for a good, hour. I've had to threaten to call security when I think she was 5 because I couldn't get her in the car from the swimming pool. She wouldn't leave. And I thought, I can't get her. And her friend was in the back seat, Joe. And I'm thinking, she's not going to get in this car. And I said, she saw me in the car and she started yelling, "You better not be calling Daddy," screaming. People are walking by and, I'm just like, I don't know. I got nothing. And I mean,
you better not be calling Daddy.
Better not be calling Daddy. And so I said, I'm not. But then I went over and I made eye contact and I said, look, if you don't get in the car, I will call security and the security guard will put you in the car. And she looked at me. She's trying to read my bluff, And I knew if I said it, I had to be willing to do it because she could call my bluff. She could. And I said, and I just stared her down. And then she just got in the car and left and acted like nothing had happened. She did have consequences, but yeah. And she had an imaginary husband named Michael, and she and Michael had huge arguments. And
really?
Oh, I always would say, if I were her preschool teacher, I for sure would have said, well, we know how her mom talks to her dad, but I definitely did not talk to Mac that way. And she would have huge arguments with Michael. Michael was very opinionated about the clothes she was wearing. This is when she was 3. And we were in a little store one time and it was Easter. So she was picking out white sandals. She yelled, "Michael doesn't like white sandals." And she wanted the rainbow sequin Birkenstocks. Look, I may be getting flushed just thinking back to this time, boiling. I'm sweating, just remembering this tiny shop. And I whip around, not my finest parenting moment. When your child is here emotionally, you don't want to match them, but I did. I whipped around and I said, "Michael doesn't make decisions in our family." And the poor young girl helping us goes, "Who's Michael?" To which I had to respond, "Her imaginary husband." That was excellent. Michael, very opinionated. Michael had, so she was very intense, very creative, she's pretty funny. She was amazing. And she's still amazing, but it just required a lot. I say children are like water coming down a chute. I picture this part of the water park at SeaWorld and water coming down the chute, and the kids could put like wood slats in it to guide the water one way or the other. And strong-willed blessings are more like wet cement coming down, and it takes your whole body, to guide it. But once you guide it, you don't have to worry about other people changing their opinions. I never worried I remember one time one of her friend's mothers called me and she said, I had a great conversation with Emily last night, and she was probably 15, maybe 16. And I said, "Oh, great." And this mother was, I would say possibly Christian, but definitely a different view of scripture than what we have.
All right.
And I said, "That's okay. I'm not." Emily's pretty secure in what she believes. And so Emily came home and she said, "Mom," she was talking about how it's possible that many people believe that the stories of Jesus were made up and that it makes Christians feel better. And she said, "Mom, I was just quoting scripture. I was just saying things I didn't even know I knew." And I said, "Emily, that's what the Holy Spirit does. You study enough and he will bring to mind what you need when you need it." But it never crossed our minds that another person could change her confidence in what she believed. So that's the beauty of the strong-willed blessing. When they believe something, they know it. And when they feel something strongly, they're going to say it. So our job is to teach them how to say it in a productive way so that
That's
they
awesome.
can be heard. But yeah, how strong was she? How strong is she? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's, that was our boys, especially Adam, because Adam was, what people would call the wild card, because he was so, I mean, Austin has been 40 ever since he was 6. And
the tuck-in shirt, belt his shorts kid from a very
Alex Keaton on Growing Pains, and so Austin had some caution, rule follower. Adam is just like, bye-bye. But we have seen the evidence of what Adam believes. You're not getting him off of it.
Right.
I mean, and so he is, we've been able to, we never imposed our beliefs on Adam. We just explained why we believed what we believed. And at some point he was going to have to decide. And so he has always felt free to talk to his mom and to talk to me. We've sat many times in a box looking at a field in a deer stand, and that's a lot of time to talk. And so
I do think so. But you guys did put him in a position around other people where he had examples, not just you and Polly. There were many examples around
absolutely
at different ages and life stages. So that community is so key there. So they see, and they also see those who believe this is what their life looks like. It doesn't protect them from injury or harm or trauma or sadness or loneliness, but you can see how they handle it versus those who don't believe the same thing and have that community.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, let me ask you the question.
Yeah, sorry. Oh my gosh, sorry.
No. This is fine. I just want to ask you the question that's going to make you kind of aggravated at me.
Can't wait. Yes, go.
When do we get a Julie Richard book?
Oh, man.
I've only been asking you that for about 20 years.
It's so, I do, you're funny to ask, kind to ask, mean to ask, all the things. All the things. See, we do say that a lot in our family. You know what, Andy? I do feel like I have concepts that I want to share that I feel like could just, I have a real passion. My passion is for children. And so I'm thinking if I could give moms and dads a few tools that could help them enjoy parenting, because it's overwhelming. We say the appropriate response when you think about the responsibility of motherhood is to throw up in your mouth a little bit. You should throw up a little bit. You swallow it, spit it out, and move on, And so I do feel like I would love to add to the joy of motherhood, a voice out there saying, yeah, it's hard, but isn't anything worthwhile? And so I'm just going to say coming soon, Andy. Okay.
All right. Good. As long as you're telling me, as long as you're not telling me no.
No, I feel like I will. I do. I get excited about studying. And that was actually one of the things that we said with Emily's wedding coming up. Then I'm going to take a break from writing curriculum like I usually do. And so I said, maybe I'll take advantage of this time. And then I started reading about other topics. And
what is Emily's fiance's name, by the way?
Jordan.
It's not Michael.
It's not. Although I want you to know that the first week of kindergarten, there was a Michael in her class. And obviously she was engaged to him before the end of the week. And I said to her, she was 5. And no, she was 5. And I said, that's so fun to pretend. And she was 5. And she said, we're not pretending. We love each other. I said, okay. Okay. Michael knows what he's dealing with here. So,
Oh my God.
yes, but they did break up because his brothers told him how much a tux would cost.
Oh, she had him going on that, huh? Oh my gosh. Oh Lord. Hey, I have to introduce you to a guy named Jonathan Brush.
Yes, you sent me. I have it pulled up. I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you have got you and Jonathan. I mean, maybe you could have him on your podcast. But
Yes.
I'm telling you, if there is a counterpart to you for older kids, you know.
I want to know him. What now? Describe to me what he does.
He is the CEO of Unbound.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and so I will connect you with him. We've got it. I've had him on the podcast a couple of times, and I am just fascinated. And I think with what you do, I am just as impressed as what he does. And you know, I can talk to you, and I could just listen to you forever. And what you say makes so much sense, which is so important to me. And so the same way with Jonathan, when I listen to him talk about high school age to college age young
So that's
people.
his passion.
Yeah. Yeah. When that high school to college age, and it's just and just like listening to you, you kind of listen to Julie and go, where have you been? Why are people not talking about this? This makes so much sense. And in the same way with Jonathan, I go, how come everybody doesn't know about Unbound? What is going on here? So anyway, I have to connect.
Yeah, I definitely want to connect because I just am starting to read about, well, obviously the stage of life I'm in, and many of my friends, parenting adult children and doing life with adult children. I love this title, Jim Burns, Doing Life with Adult Children, Keep Your Mouth Shut and the Welcome Mat Out. I love that one.
Yeah.
And enjoying your adult children. There are a lot of books out there. That's what I'm reading right now. I think enjoying life is really underestimated.
Yeah, I do. I loved what you said today about they're drinking from the overflow of your fountain.
Yeah. And that's I always say, I try to be a tall, skinny fountain.
Well, that's good for me to hear because I know I'm an intense person. And I know that the boys know that. And so that's good for me to hear.
But
thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. But you do, Andy, you and Polly both. I think that's your secret sauce with your boys is you are aware of your overflow. And you are intentional with them. And I think that's why you guys do enjoy them at the ages where they are. And you've been so great with train up a child in the way he should go. So my job is to teach and train and to help him figure out his path. Right. And I think you guys have done that. I think it's a tremendous example for the rest of us.
Well, I'll just say this. I think that I paid attention to the way Solomon wrote that. He said, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is grown, he will not depart from it. He didn't say, make a child do what you want him to do. And when he is grown, he will keep doing what you made him do. Right. That ain't what he wrote. And so that training a child in the way that he should go, I think includes a lot of conversations.
A lot.
So anyway, thank you, Julie, for being with us. I know how valuable your time is, but you have multiplied your value being with us today. People are going to be very grateful for this, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate so much. I love everything you are doing. I'm a big fan of Wisdom Harbor. I'm a big fan of the podcast.
I've got to say, too, just before we go, your Wisdom Harbor pieces are just gold. I mean, people love your Wisdom Harbor pieces. And so if you're watching this and you have not joined Wisdom Harbor streaming service, shame on you.
Okay.
It's cheap and you need to join.
And you need it. And it is a family resource. Okay. So when I record them, there are usually two guys helping me record, the camera guy, the audio, they're putting it up on the teleprompter for me. So I'll read through it and we are all like, what? We love them. And then I come home, I share them with my kids, my family. Oh, we're loving it. Loving it.
Wow.
I love being a part. And it's fascinating. And someone mentioned a random fact about World War II. And I go, and Mac and I both looked at each other and we go, that's an Andy Andrews, bet you didn't know.
That is
I'll
awesome.
figure out what it is. I'm going to try to remember and send it to you.
Yeah,
You're right. Genius one.
Well, thank you. You guys have a great time on your trip.
Thank you so much. Tell your family we said hello.
Will do. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of the Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing what tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Creative license for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by theobsoletecomeback.org. Have you had it with modern technology? Would you like to step back in time just a little bit? Theobsoletecomeback.org is an association of like-minded people with a love for simpler times, and our warehouses are stocked with items that are more than nostalgic. They're downright obsolete. But forgotten technological items are rearing their heads and begging you to take them back, care for them, and be as amazed at their powers as you once were. The mighty fax machine, once a staple of every office, can now be yours for a mere $19.95. Rotary dial phones in avocado green, $5 a piece. Folding paper maps for a quarter. Whatever you want, we have it at theobsoletecomeback.org. Log on now for disposable film cameras, manual and electric typewriters, Sony's Walkman, slide projectors, floppy disk, and entire sets of Encyclopedia Britannica. Please note, theobsoletecomeback.org was selling vinyl record albums for $1 each, but due to market recalculations, vinyl albums are now a minimum of $30 a piece. Order now and get a free paper phone book with every item you buy. We are theobsoletecomeback.org.